Come on. Okay. Cool. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Azure podcast. This is your host, Evan Baslick. I'm here with Kendall today. We've got a small crew, as well as our special guest, Srdan Bozovic from the SQL Managed Instance team. We'll get to him in a minute, oh, and I forgot, today is September 1st, and this is episode number 392. You'd think, Kendall, after 392 episodes, we'd still get the intro down.
I know. You know what? We're busy people. There's a lot going on.
It's got to remember the date, the episode, everything. So
it's a lot. It's a lot to remember.
Yeah, it is. So, so for news, Kendall, what do you have news-wise?
Yeah. So it's I don't have any crazy updates, not too many today, but I will say I've been working a lot with Kubernetes customers. No shocker there, and one of the challenges that we've seen is some of the integration from a security center perspective, just some of the features that weren't supported or even private registries, things like that. And so Azure Defender has is for container registries now actually supports protected private link container registries, which is great because, before it didn't really support the private, if you had a private registry. And so I think this is definitely a really good step in the right direction. I will say the Security Center team is doing a lot of great work in terms of AKS integration. So I know another big recent feature that came out is you used to only do scanning on push or like recent, I would say import or recent pull into an AKS cluster. So you'd get the scanning happening, once you've already put the image in a container registry, but now they're bringing some capability in to do that in the CI/CD pipeline. And so there's just a lot of good progress in terms of the integrations that are happening with Security Center and Defender with Kubernetes on Azure. And so, that's the only thing that I wanted to call out or highlight in this particular.
Cool. Yeah, I will highlight one thing. So we've announced some new Express. I'm a networking guy at heart, so got to talk about some of that. But we've announced some new Express Route peering locations or GA. Chicago to Seoul to and Pune. I think what's interesting about this, and the reason I sort of highlight this one is because, in this day and age of COVID and so many people working, remote, and you're trying to connect to your data centers, like this bigger and bigger WAN connectivity into the cloud just becomes a bigger deal. I mean, even companies that are, routing stuff from the, people coming in through their VPN to their data center, they still have to get into the cloud to do almost everything. So just, it's good to see further and further expansion of this kind of stuff. It's only going to help everything. So, okay, great. Also, yes, fairly short news today. So at this point, Srdan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and share what you do here for Microsoft?
Hi, folks. I'm Srdan Bozovic, and I'm Senior Program Manager with Azure SQL Managed Instance team. My focus is on security. Previously, I was focused more on networking. This is, you guess, how I met Evan. Yes, and now I kind of more focused on different aspects of the security for managed instance, like authentication. That is kind of now my current focus, but I also kind of try to provide a holistic security story for managed instance, including networking, authentication, Azure Defender, some integration with control plane, data plane, auditing, all the stuff.
Okay, cool. So I guess maybe the first question, right? We've got Azure SQL Database. We got a couple different flavors of that: MySQL, SQL Server, and PostgreSQL. And then we've got SQL Server, running on ISVM, and then we got SQL Managed Instance in there as well. Like, what's the difference? Where does that fit in the picture? If I'm sitting saying, hey, I need a relational database, I want to use SQL Server. When would I use SQL MI versus the other ones?
Right. So SQL MI is positioned to be a platform as a service, but the service that best resembles your on-prem experience. So we kind of aim to have 100% compatibility with on-prem SQL in terms, it's kind of your own SQL, but just in the cloud with all the functionalities like SQL agent log, like, CLR, like all of these functionalities. And it's also on multiple databases, because when you pick Azure SQL DB, that is basically database as a service, single database as a service. Yes, we have logical server that is more like kind of, container of all of that, and add some functionalities on top of that, like networking and stuff. But from the core service perspective, managed instance is your on-prem server in the cloud.
So it's basically, sort of, I get all the management goodness and the security goodness and the control goodness of a PaaS service, but I have the flexibility of my own. Okay, makes sense.
The full-fledged server. And basically this seems to become a trend, because customers like these seems to like this concept of these managed services. They're also kind of single tenant. So when customer gets managed instance, it gets its own virtual cluster. Customers is alone on this cluster. For certain customers, that is also very important from both security perspective and kind of some of them also afraid of noisy neighbors, though even on SQL DB we kind of have mechanisms to avoid that. So single tenant service has its benefits, and actually many data services are that have not already think of going into this direction as well. So hopefully in the future we will have for each of these services that you mentioned, like kind of multi-tenant offering and the single tenant offering.
Oh, go ahead, Kendall.
Oh no, you got it.
So I sort of get that management scenario, right? Like I get the full features of SQL. Does that mean, when you say full features, I think about things like, transactional replication, and I think about, you mentioned agents, so it's clearly in there. I think about things like, reporting services and analysis services. Does all that come with it, or is it just sort of the core engine piece?
Yes, it's core engine things. So transactional replication is definitely there. Link
distributed
servers,
transactions would be another one.
Distributed transactions are definitely there. These things are definitely there. The things that you mentioned afterwards, like reporting service, like SSIS, SSAS, these are kind of I would say satellite products that, yes, they come bundled when you buy SQL in a box or download it these days. And for those services, we actually in Azure, we are kind of more encouraging customers, for example, to use Power BI
Right.
instead of reporting services.
Yeah, I guess I'm dating myself when I say reporting services.
Yes. That's kind of old school SQL.
Yeah.
We here and look like you have Power BI, you have Azure Data Factory, really great service for integration. But to be honest, we hear customers asking for just they would like just left to shift their reporting services, and we hear different left and shift requests. We could touch on that later, and we are thinking about it. So it's not kind of that we are saying I could not say we will do that, but I'm not saying we will not do that, because this is really what we hear from our customers a lot, and we have some kind of experiments. We also love and enjoy working with future engineers. We have a lot of internships. I think that our team had like 30 internships really this year, and we use these internships to explore different ideas, like having sidecar containers with these services and stuff. So I don't know, maybe we will have that one day.
I will probably date myself, but not only do I remember supporting reporting services on the box, and to the audience, send us a message if you remember this, but there was a very short-lived reporting services cloud product that existed for like, I don't know, maybe 2 years or something like that. It didn't stick around very long. It was sort of as Power BI was starting to come up, but okay, no, that's great. So that sort of puts it in the framework. And so, what I find when I talk to customers is, it's sort of the 80-20 rule. 80% of people just use sort of that core engine stuff. They're just writing T-SQL, right? They're not doing distributed. They're not doing, transactional replication. They're not doing sort of the high-end stuff. Do you if you're thinking about moving your on-premises SQL instance, should you start with, hey, I want to get to SQL database, but I can't get there because I have some blocker, so you should go to MI? Or do you typically recommend go the other way, sort of go to SQL MI as your first step, because that sort of is, the standard, gold standard for compatibility, and then you start evaluating, do you go to paths? How do you recommend people think about that path? Because that's got to be a choice everybody's wrestling with.
Yes,
where do I start?
Definitely. And actually, we are very transparent about the options, in comparison between, what you have. There is a comparison article, like what you have with on-prem SQL, what you have with managed instance, what you have with DB, right? And based on these features, customers kind of make a decisions. Typically, I would say, and there are a couple of simple rules. By the way, we also have this great tool. This is kind of data migration assessment tool that actually has a pre-built rules, and then you could run this tool on the workloads, and actually this tool will give you the recommendation. So
analyze it basically.
Analyze the
gotcha.
workloads and give you recommendations, analyze the features. So we have really a good story about that migration. But some simple rules of thumb are, if you have multiple databases, then maybe your solution uses multiple databases, then maybe managed instance would be a kind of better location. If you everything is in a single database and you want just quickly drop create databases or whatever, then maybe the SQL DB. But this is very, I would say, kind of superficial rules. We really have a team inside Data Group that invested in this data migration assistant tool, and they have all kind of migration set of tools. We are also working on a new migration, just tools that are kind of doing actual migration, not just assessments. And not just for the SQL, but also what would you like if you have some Oracle workloads or some other workloads? What would be the destination in the cloud? And that doesn't have to be even SQL. It could be Postgre, it could be anything. So I would just kind of encourage our viewers to go and look into these assessments, because these guys really did a great job. But yeah, these are some rules of thumb that I could share with.
Great.
Awesome. So yeah, I have a couple questions, but I'll start with one. So I'm curious. So from an application developer perspective, let's say that I have my data, we've migrated it to Azure, it's sitting in Azure SQL Managed Instance. We're super excited about it. Now we want to consume this service from app service or a container running in AKS. What are some of the security considerations I should take into account as I connect to my SQL instance? What are some of the best practices, or what are some of the things I should consider as I'm setting up that overall architecture where I'm integrating that data into my application workloads?
Yes, we in our documentation, we also offer a great guide that covers kind of different aspects. But if I would like to highlight kind of just the key ones, I would say the first one should be private networking. Managed instance resides in the customer network, so it has kind of native built-in support for this. SQLDB also has private link, and web apps have VNet integration. I think that for the Kubernetes clusters, you have also some options to integrate it into the VNet. So that would be the first advice: keep everything in a VNet. And the second thing is use managed identities. And because these are the identities that platform manage for you. Both managed instance and SQLDB support those. So yeah, just have this experience and have secrets out of keep it closed in a VNet, and keep secrets out of any of humans, basically.
So that's great advice. Yeah, those are definitely things I would echo. I'm curious. So one of the big things at Microsoft right now that I'm hearing from a lot of customers when we think about hybrid is this Azure Arc story. And I know that Azure Arc supports bringing data services down and running those on Kubernetes clusters. And so I'm curious, I believe SQL Managed Instances is one of those data services. So what are your thoughts just on that entire movement? Do you see customers that are gravitating toward this, or just I'm kind of curious more for your opinion and perspective on this sort of new initiative that we've created to bring these services down to Kubernetes.
I think this is really great thing, and I think that this hybrid movement is super important. You manage some aspects of it, so basically, and by the way, I've looked at that your show based on Azure Arc and stuff. It was really great, and as mentioned there, so it's really kind of about bringing cloud to customers, and that's something that we also hear from the customers all the time, and we are actually investing a lot this year into this hybrid. What does it mean specifically for the managed instance? One example would be kind of hybrid distributed availability groups that we want to introduce. That means that you could kind of couple managed instance with on-premise SQL Server and then establish replication between of them. It's not, it's really kind of availability group replication, so it's kind of online syncing. The other aspects of this hybrid thing is related to identity. What we are working on, what we are introducing is actually something that we call Windows authentication for Azure
That's
AD
like old school.
accounts. Yes, that's kind of merging together old and new.
Yeah.
Really, because you have Windows authentication, meaning it's not integrated authentication that you have for some time with Azure SQL, but it's really kind of Kerberos protocol.
Yeah.
We merge Kerberos protocol with Azure AD principles. So that basically,
Wow.
if you have some, kind of legacy app, like you have some app from, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and has really old drivers, but then you integrated, and now you upgraded your environment, you integrated on-prem AD with Azure AD, then you could use this old app run under some account that is Azure AD account, that is Azure AD mapped, and that could use Kerberos protocol because drivers of that app do not know anything better, and connect to the managed instance. So this is just one example of these hybrid scenarios. These hybrid scenario identity team is also working on some cool hybrid stuff. So even better, you've heard about this Azure AD join thing. It's super cool, and for example, that would also work with Kerberos. So think of this example: you have Windows 11 computer VM, and then you could do Azure AD join of this VM to the cloud. And then you could use Windows authentication for your app to connect to managed instance, regardless of the fact that your Windows 11 PC is not AD joined at all. So we're investing a lot in hybrid.
I just have these flashbacks of thinking about Kerberos double hops and curb tray and curb ticket, all that kind of stuff that I probably did 10 plus years ago. Now it's I have this vision of some of my old teammates calling me up and saying, "Hey, remember that stuff that you don't use anymore? None of us know it now."
Yeah. I do a lot. Actually, I had a lot of chance in the last 2 months to do curbless, curb purge, different kind of curb commands, just to see how it's working. So it's kind of a great flashback, and great to see this new technology coming with all the new stuff like conditional access and everything that we're bringing on.
That's actually, I mean, I think if you look at, and this, not necessarily a pitch for Azure per se, but like, if you look at our DNA as a company and therefore as a cloud, hybrid has always been there, right? We've never been sort of, hey, you must be on-prem or you must be in the cloud, and never shall the two meet. We were talking about ExpressRoute's a hybrid connectivity. We've had that for many, many years now. Like we have Azure Stack. Like we've always sort of been that we'll meet you where you are. And
Yes.
this is sort of just what you're talking about with Kerberos integration and Windows authentication is, that really is just expanding that meet you where you are scenario.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are a company that have a long tradition and presence and partnership, if you will, with the enterprises, and all of this stuff and managed instance comes out of that. We want to really kind of take their hand and lead them to the cloud. Of course, we try to kind of modernize ourselves to provide these offers that are very acceptive for our for the startups. We of course want to address this audience, but I think that the enterprise segment is really where we shine, and we would not leave any enterprise behind. We will kind of go even if back to the Kerberos to kind of modernize it on where they are. We will not just tell them, hey, this is new time, let's do something right new. We just want to kind of make them this transition smooth.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I want to loop back to, we were talking earlier about the migration story and picking which one. One thing we didn't touch on was I know you mentioned the data migration. There's a service, to help with some of that. It is, if I actually have a database on premises, am I doing replication, get my data up there? Am I copying the MDB? Like, how do I actually get my data to this new service?
Yes, there are a couple of ways, and all of them are SQL based. So first thing, you could kind of simply do backup restore. That is good in some scenarios. For some, it's not. Then what this data migration service that you mentioned, it's different from data migration assessment tool. Assessment tool is something that you could run and do the assessment. Migration service is something that we offer that really kind of does migration for you. You could do the log shipping. We also expose log shipping API through our control plane for customers that would like to kind of do log shipping on their own without using the service. So service is really kind of to provide a best experience, but we have very educated customers with a lot of experience that would like to do them on their own. And we think that actually this hybrid distributed availability groups would be the next great thing for migration, because when you establish this, it's nearly kind of online replication, and then you could do a failover from on-premise to the cloud.
Downtime in that scenario.
Yeah, really. That would be that is real no downtime scenario that we are working on, and it's very exciting. So you have, I would say, all these ways, and you could always, of course, do transaction replication, backpacks, whatever you want, but really a lot of choices with SQL. But I think that for the enterprises, log shipping, and we hope that the next big thing would be this hybrid availability.
Yeah, because I think that is the one piece that when I talk to customers, they love the idea of sort of getting here, but especially the ones that have, applications that really can't afford much downtime. The idea of taking a backup, taking the system offline for, this, terabyte size database, you're talking many hours just to copy the thing up there. So online, it definitely makes sense down the road.
Yes, you're right. So that's the thing. It's not that we are building just kind of cool fancy demos that you could show on these conferences, but really for the real thing, for the real enterprise need, you need stuff like log shipping or hybrid availability groups. Otherwise, it would be really much harder for them.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, this is great, Srdan. Kendall, any other questions for him, or? I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is really good, and I will call out. We did have Bob and Anna on a couple, I guess,
Yeah.
like 5 months ago or something.
Yeah.
From Learn SQL, and so they have a lot of great learning initiatives. So if you're interested in digging more into this, definitely refer back to that podcast, and B, also go check out some of their great content around how to set some of this stuff up. But I was gonna ask, is there anything? I know that we talked about some of the advanced features that y'all are working on from a hybrid perspective, but just any other things that you want to call out that you're excited about, or new features, or what we can expect that maybe we didn't get a chance to touch on. But outside of that, I think this was great.
Yes, so we covered a really lot of things, and I would echo your call to look what Anna and Bob did. They really did a lot of good stuff on Azure SQL, and I would say the things that you could really learn from. So it's a great educational material. It's not like kind of techie talk that I do.
It's not a low end demo. It's not a marketing demo. We'll call it that. Yeah.
It's really something great. Me personally, I'm very excited about these managed identities that I talked about. This is where my focus are, and kind of my goal for product improvement is actually to make these managed identities being used in all the scenarios. So thinking about two managed instances, link server between them, managed identities, you do not need to set up anything. And on top of that, actually your context of your user transfers from one managed instance to the other. So I logged into the one managed instance. I then do link server to the other managed instance, and that other managed instance recognizes who I am.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Of course, bulk insert, transactional replication, everything that you could do works with managed identities. So that's my kind of goal, and that's about what I'm excited about. Doesn't mean that our viewers would be exciting about this. Is geeky stuff, but if you ask me personal questions, this is the answer.
Great. Yeah. No. Definitely. Yeah. We had. God, this goes back away. We had. I can remember his last name, Lucatero. We had the AAD guy that owned managed instances several years ago, and this was when they were early. And man, he just sort of blew our mind in terms of, it managing, or not managed instances, right? Managed service identities and whatnot. Like, yes. Just the freedom and the benefits you get from not having to manage the secret, right? But still getting all the benefit of the application was just huge. Arturo, that's what it was.
Yes, that's really kind of hardened security.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so this is great. Srdan, what we'll do is we'll get some links and everything from you, and we'll post it in the show notes for the audience. And again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
See you. Bye.
See you next time.